Hey there. Tonight we're going back, way back, to the year ECHNAD, high in the Andes Mountains, where the air is so thin your lungs burn with every breath. You won't be scrolling through your phone or sipping clean water from a tap. No. Tonight you are Tupac, a young warrior of the Wari Empire, and the sky hasn't cried in 3 years. 3 years. The crops are dust. Your children's ribs show through their skin like xylophone keys. Your neighbors? They've started eyeing each other differently. Hunger does that. It turns humans into something else. The great Wari civilization, the one that built cities in the clouds, that engineered water systems that would make modern engineers weep with envy, is dying. And you're watching it happen one dried up well at a time. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let me walk you through what it meant to survive, or not survive, the worst drought in Andean history. Leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Let's begin your journey into the forgotten nightmare of ECHNAD. You wake before dawn in your stone dwelling, perched on a terraced hillside. The altitude makes your head pound. You're nearly ling feet above sea level. Your wife, Koya, is already awake, grinding what's left of the quinoa seeds. The grinding stone makes a hollow sound. There's barely anything left to grind. You run your tongue across cracked lips that haven't felt moisture in days. Outside the sacred mountains, the Apis stands silent against a cloudless sky that hasn't changed color in months. Just endless, mocking blue. Your daughter, little Kusi, coughs in the corner. That dry, rattling cough that every child in the village has now. You've lost count of how many children have stopped coughing. You dress in your wool tunic, worn thin from years of use, and tie your sandals made from llama leather. The leather is cracking too. Everything is cracking, drying, turning to powder. You grab your bronze-tipped spear and your sling, both weapons you know too well. The Wari Empire is fracturing. Villages that once traded peacefully now fight over dried-up springs. You step outside and squint at the sun, already aggressive despite the early hour. The terraced fields that once grew potatoes, maize, and beans are now just empty stone steps leading to nowhere. Your neighbor, old Amaru, sits outside his dwelling, staring at nothing. He lost his entire family last month. Starvation, then disease, always in that order. You nod to him. He doesn't nod back. The community is dying, and with it, all the social bonds that held it together. The village council meets in the center plaza, beneath the shadow of the temple. There are only 12 of you left. There used to be 40 warriors. The others died fighting, or left to find water, or simply lay down and stopped breathing. The chief, Viracocha, stands before you. He's ancient, maybe 50 years old, a miracle in these times. His face is a map of wrinkles carved by sun and worry. He speaks in a raspy voice. The plan is simple and terrible. 2 neighboring villages to the north have water. Not much, but enough. They've refused to share, so you'll take it. You look around at the other warriors. Chasky, your closest friend since childhood, nods grimly. His wife died giving birth last week. The baby died too. They had no water to wet her lips. Atok, the scarred veteran of countless battles, sharpens his obsidian blade methodically. The sound of stone on stone sets your teeth on edge. Young Uturunku, barely 16, looks terrified. This will be his first real combat. You remember being 16. That was a lifetime ago, before the drought, before the sky became an enemy. Viracocha explains the attack plan. You'll leave at midnight, march 4 hours north, attack at dawn when they're weak and sleepy. Take their water stores, their dried food, if they had any, and retreat before their allies can respond. It's not warfare, it's survival. You've stopped pretending there's a difference. You return to your dwelling and sharpen your own weapons. Koya watches you in silence. She knows what this means. you might not come back. Or worse, you might come back as something different. A man who killed neighbors over water. Midnight comes too quickly. You kiss Kusi's forehead, hot with fever, and avoid Koya's eyes as you leave. The war party assembles silently. 12 men armed with spears, clubs, slings, and obsidian knives. No words are spoken. What would you say? Good luck murdering our former trading partners? The moon is a sliver in the sky, offering barely any light. That's good. Darkness is your ally now. You begin the march north, single file, along the ancient stone roads your ancestors built. These roads once connected a sprawling empire. Now they're just paths to violence. The altitude makes every step an effort. Your lungs work like bellows, never quite getting enough oxygen. Beside you, Chasky stumbles on loose rocks. You steady him without speaking. The landscape is ghostly in the moonlight. Terraced fields like giant stone skeletons, climbing the mountains, abandoned irrigation channels that once carried water from glacial springs, now just empty ditches. Everything the Wari built depended on water. Without it, the empire is just pretty stonework and corpses. After 2 hours of marching, Viracocha raises his fist. Everyone stops. In the distance, barely visible, you can see the target village. Smoke from their fires means they still have something to burn, something to cook. Your stomach twists with hunger and anger. They have resources. Your daughter is dying. The mathematics of survival is brutally simple. Atok moves to the front, scouting ahead. He returns minutes later with a report. 20 warriors in the village, but most are asleep. Their watchtower guard is nodding off. Drought makes everyone weak. Viracocha gives the signal. You spread out, encircling the village from 3 sides. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You've killed men before in honest combat, defending your territory. This feels different. This feels like becoming an animal. Dawn breaks like a wound across the sky. Dawn breaks like a wound across the sky. You're positioned behind a low stone wall 20 yards from the nearest dwelling. The village begins to stir. You can hear mourning sounds, a child crying, someone coughing, the scrape of pottery, normal sounds. People who have no idea their world is about to explode. Viracocha gives the signal, a sharp whistle mimicking a mountain bird. You surge forward with the others. The sound of running feet on hard earth. The first target villager, a man your age stepping outside, sees you and freezes. His mouth opens to shout. Atok's slingstone catches him in the temple with a wet crack. He drops like a puppet with cut strings. No time to think. You're through the village entrance now. Women screaming, children running, warriors stumbling out of dwellings, half-dressed, grabbing for weapons. Your spear finds a man's shoulder. You didn't aim to kill, just to disable, but he's down, screaming. Blood, bright red in the early light. More blood than you expected. The drought has made everyone's blood seem more precious. Chasky is beside you, his club rising and falling. Young Uturunku stands frozen until an enemy warrior charges him. Instinct takes over. Uturunku's spear enters the man's stomach. The look on the boy's face, horror, realization that he's just crossed a line he can never uncross. The fight is chaos, hand to hand in the narrow spaces between dwellings. You grapple with a warrior who's trying to drive a bronze knife into your throat. His breath smells like hunger. Your breath probably smells the same. You're both dying, slowly, just from different villages. You headbutt him, feel his nose crunch. He goes down. The violence is over in minutes. 7 of them dead. 3 of your warriors dead. The mathematics of survival, written in blood on dry earth. The surviving villagers are herded into the center plaza. 15 people, mostly women, children, and old men. They look at you with hatred and terror. You don't blame them. You'd look at you the same way. Viracocha's orders are clear. Take the water stores. Take the dried food. take their seed corn. That's the cruelest part. Seed corn means future crops, future hope. You're not just stealing their present, you're stealing their future. You find their water storage, 3 large ceramic vessels in a covered shelter. 3 vessels. That's what 7 people died for. You lift one and it's heavy, sloshing. Real water. You haven't heard that beautiful sound in weeks. The urge to drink is overwhelming. You don't. Discipline keeps you alive. The food stores are pathetic. Some dried potato chuño, a handful of quinoa, strips of dried llama meat. Barely enough to feed your village for a week, but it's more than you had yesterday. One of the captive women spits at you as you pass. The glob of saliva lands on your sandal. She's old, maybe 40, with eyes that have seen too much. The gods will punish you, she hisses. The apis are watching. You've broken the sacred reciprocity. You'll die screaming. You want to explain that the gods already punished you, that the gods sent the drought that made you into this. But you say nothing. What could you say that would matter? Atok finds something else, a small cache of coca leaves, precious for enduring altitude and hunger. He pockets them without sharing. You notice but say nothing. The bonds of community are dissolving faster than you imagined. By mid-morning, you're marching back south, burdened with stolen water and stolen future. Behind you, the village burns. Someone set the fires. You don't know who. You don't ask. The march home takes 6 hours. Every step is agony. The water vessel on your back weighs perhaps 30 pounds, but it feels like a mountain. Your shoulders scream. Your legs tremble. At altitude, with hunger gnawing your guts, it's almost unbearable. But you keep moving. Behind you, 2 warriors carry the second vessel between them on a pole. The third vessel is strapped to Chasky's back. He's the strongest remaining warrior. Or he was, before 3 years of drought. You pass an abandoned village around noon. You've seen it before, but each time it's more disturbing. 100 dwellings empty. Stone walls intact, roofs collapsed. Bodies never buried because the ground was too hard to dig. Just mummies now, dried by the sun, lying where they fell. A child's skeleton in a doorway, skull tilted back as if staring at that merciless blue sky. How many people lived here once? 500, 1,000, all gone. Just another casualty of the drought that's killing the Andes, from Ecuador to Bolivia. The Wari Empire at its peak controlled hundreds of thousands of people. Sophisticated water engineering, extensive trade networks. Now, scattered bands of dying warriors fighting over ceramic pots of water. You stop to rest in the abandoned plaza. Your hands shake as you untie the water vessel. Just for a moment, just to ease the weight. Chasky collapses beside you, breathing like a dying animal. Young Uturunku hasn't spoken since the battle. He sits apart, staring at his blood-stained hands. You know that look. You wore it after your first kill. Viracocha allows a short break, 10 minutes, then back to marching. The sun is directly overhead now, beating down on your skull like hammer blows. By evening, you can see your village in the distance, smoke from cooking fires. They're already burning some of tomorrow's resources to celebrate today's victory. The village greets you like conquering heroes. They're not. You know this, but hungry people need victories, even bloody ones. The water vessels are placed in the communal storage with ceremony. Viracocha announces rationing, 1 small cup per person per day. That's all. 3 vessels might buy you 3 weeks if you're careful. Then what? Nobody asks. Questions about the future are forbidden now. They lead to despair. You return to your dwelling as dusk falls. Koya has prepared a thin soup from the resources you left, mostly water with a few fragments of dried potato. It's pitiful, but now you have supplies, stolen supplies, murdered supplies. You distribute the small sack of food you received as your warriors share. Quinoa seeds, some chunyo, a strip of dried meat. Koya's eyes widen. This is enough for maybe a week, she whispers. Don't ask, you cut her off. She understands. Kusi is awake, her fever broken for now. She looks at the food with huge eyes. When did your daughter get so thin? Her arms are like sticks. Her belly is distended, a cruel joke of starvation that makes children look pregnant. You cook a small meal. The smell of food cooking is obscene, almost sexual in its intensity. You haven't smelled cooking food in weeks. Neighbors will smell it too. You eat quickly before anyone can knock on your door begging. The quinoa soup is the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. That's what hunger does. It turns a handful of seeds into a feast. Kusi eats slowly, carefully, her body having forgotten how to process food. Koya cries while eating, just silent tears running down her face. You understand. This meal costs 7 lives, maybe more if that village starves now. The mathematics of survival. You're learning to hate mathematics. 3 days of relative plenty pass. You eat small meals twice a day. Unbelievable luxury. Kusi's cough improves slightly. Koya stops looking at you with quite so much worry. You almost feel human again. Then the scouts return with news. The village you raided didn't die quietly. They've allied with 2 other settlements. A war party of nearly 40 warriors is marching south toward you. The council meets again. The math is brutal. 12 warriors, 3 of them wounded from the raid versus 40. Viracocha's face shows his age today. We cannot fight them, he says simply. We cannot run either. The women, children, elderly, they cannot march fast enough. We'd be caught in the open. Silence hangs in the air like smoke. Atak speaks up, his scarred face grim. We negotiate, give back some water, offer trade agreements. You laugh. It comes out bitter. They won't negotiate. Would you? We killed their brothers over water. This is vengeance wrapped in survival. Chasqui suggests abandoning the village, scattering into the mountains, each family for themselves. It might work. It would also mean the end of your community, such as it is. Everything your ancestors built dissolved into individual survival. Young Uturunku says nothing. He hasn't spoken since killing that man. After 2 hours of argument, a decision emerges. Not a good decision. No good decisions exist anymore. You'll fortify the village, prepare for siege, and hope their war party isn't willing to die attacking uphill positions. It's a desperate hope, but hope is all you have, and even that's rationed now. You spend the afternoon building defensive walls from loose stone, reinforcing existing walls, preparing sling stones, sharpening weapons. Your hands bleed from the work. The blood looks black in the harsh sunlight. You're preparing to kill more neighbors, more former trading partners, more humans who are just trying not to die. They arrive at noon the next day. 40 warriors, maybe more. They don't attack immediately. They position themselves on the ridge above your village, visible but out of sling range. A message: we are here. We are many. We are coming. You watch them from your position behind a hastily built stone wall. From this distance, they look like any other group of warriors. Same tunics, same weapons, same exhausted posture of men dying slowly from drought. One of them is probably named Tupac, too. It's a common name. Maybe he has a daughter like Kusi. Maybe he's wondering if he'll die today. These thoughts don't help. You push them away. A herald walks forward carrying a white llama wool cloth, a truce flag. Viracocha goes to meet him, taking you and Atak as protection. The herald is young, maybe 20, with a clubfoot that makes him limp. He delivers his message in formal Quechua. Return the water, return the food, give us the warriors who led the raid. You have until sunset. Then we attack. Simple terms, impossible terms. Viracocha responds with dignity. We cannot return what we've consumed. We cannot surrender our warriors. We will defend our village. Leave now, or many of you will die. The herald nods, expecting this answer. He turns and limps back up the ridge. No further negotiation. The next communication will be violence. You return to your position. The afternoon stretches like torture. Waiting is worse than fighting. Your mind creates scenarios. You imagine the spear that will kill you. Will it be quick? Will you see it coming? Will Koya and Kusi survive if you die? Probably not. The village can't protect widows and orphans anymore. Resources are too scarce. They'll die slowly from hunger or disease or exposure. Unless Koya finds another warrior to marry immediately. The thoughts circle like carrion birds. The attack comes at sunset, when the light is strange and unreliable. They come from 3 directions simultaneously, a coordinated assault. Sling stones rain down like deadly hail. You hear them whistling through the air, parat, then the crack when they hit stone, or the wet thud when they hit flesh. Someone screams, Puma, one of your warriors, goes down with his skull caved in. Just like that. Alive to dead in a heartbeat. Then they're rushing the walls, dozens of them, screaming war cries that echo off the mountains. You throw your spear at the nearest attacker, a direct hit to the chest. He drops. No time to feel anything. You're already drawing your bronze knife, bracing for hand-to-hand combat. They're over the wall now. The defensive line breaks. It's chaos. You're fighting a warrior who's trying to gut you with an obsidian blade. He's fast, skilled, and just as desperate as you. You grapple, both of you falling to the ground, rolling in the dust. His blade cuts your forearm, a burning line of pain. Your knife finds his throat, blood hot on your hands. He makes a gurgling sound and goes still. You scramble up. The village is overrun, fighting everywhere. Women and children running. Old Amaru swinging a club like a madman before 3 warriors bring him down. Chasky fighting back to back with a talk, both of them covered in blood. Young Uturunku on the ground, not moving. Dead or wounded, you can't tell. You run toward your dwelling. Koya, Kusi, got to reach them. Got to protect them. A club catches you from the side, blinding pain in your ribs. You go down hard, wind knocked out of you. Above you, a warrior raises his club for the killing blow. This is it. This is how you die. The thought is almost a relief. The club doesn't fall. Instead, a sling stone catches your would-be killer in the side of the head. You stagger sideways and collapse. Chasky appears, loading another stone into his sling, his face a mask of blood and determination. He pulls you to your feet. Pain screams from your ribs, broken, definitely broken. But you can stand. You can fight. That's all that matters. The battle is turning not in your favor, but at least it's no longer a massacre. The attackers have taken casualties too, maybe 10 of them down. They're pulling back slightly, regrouping. You take advantage of the lull to reach your dwelling. Please let them be alive. Please. Koya is inside, clutching Kusi, both of them huddled in the corner. Alive. Relief floods through you, almost as painful as the broken ribs. We have to leave, you gasp. Now, while they're regrouping, Koya doesn't argue. She grabs a small bundle, probably their extra clothes and the hidden food. But Kusi clings to her mother, silent and wide-eyed with terror. Outside, Viracocha is shouting orders. The survivors, maybe 8 warriors still standing, are covering a retreat. The elderly, the children, the wounded, all streaming out the back of the village, heading up into the mountain paths where the enemy can't follow in formation. It's a rot, a defeat. But some of you might survive. You join the rear guard with Chasky and Atok. Your job is simple and terrible. Hold them off long enough for the civilians to escape, then run like hell. An enemy warrior charges. You sidestep despite the agony in your ribs and trip him. Atok's obsidian blade finishes him. "Go!" Viracocha shouts. "Go now!" You turn and run, supporting each other, the three of you. Behind you, the village, your home, your ancestors' home for generations, falls to the enemy. You don't look back. You climb for 2 hours in darkness. Every step with broken ribs is a fresh spike of agony. Kusi rides on Koya's back, too weak to walk. Behind you, in the valley, your village burns. Orange flames against black night. Everything you owned, everything your family accumulated over generations, turning to ash. The refugee column stretches along the narrow mountain path, maybe 40 people who escaped. Out of a village that once held 200, the rest are dead or captured. You don't know which is worse. The path is treacherous. One old woman loses her footing and tumbles screaming into darkness. No one stops. No one can stop. The enemy might be following. Around midnight, Viracocha calls a halt in a small canyon, offering some shelter from wind. No fires, no noise, just exhausted people collapsing onto bare rock. You sit with your back against cold stone, each breath a knife in your side. Koya tends to your ribs as best she can, wrapping them with strips torn from her dress. Her hands are gentle, but every touch is torture. "Where do we go?" she whispers. You don't answer because you don't know. Every village in the region is dying or already dead. The great Wari cities to the south, Pikilakta, Huari, they fell years ago when the drought first intensified. The empire is gone. There's nowhere to go. Just endless mountains and that mocking blue sky. Chasky appears out of the darkness and sits beside you. His face is a stranger's face now, hardened, aged a decade in hours. "We lost 12 people in the battle," he says flatly. 5 more died on the climb. The chief is dead. I saw him fall with a spear in his back. Viracocha, dead. The last living connection to the old ways, the old empire, the world before the drought. Now just another corpse feeding the dry earth. Morning comes cold and merciless. You're all still alive, which surprises you. The canyon offers a view of the valley below. Your village is a blackened scar now. Smoke still rises in thin columns. You can see tiny figures moving through the ruins. The victors claiming their spoils. Not that there were many spoils to claim, just more hunger spread among more mouths. Atok takes charge. With Viracocha dead, he's the most experienced warrior left. His scarred face surveys the group. 40 people. Maybe 15 are adults capable of travel. The rest are children, elderly, or wounded. "We split up," Atok announces. No preamble, no debate. Small groups survive better than large ones. Less water needed, less food, harder to track. It makes brutal sense, but it also means abandoning the last remnants of community. You look at the faces around you. These are your people. The children played with Kusi. The women helped Koya through difficult childbirths. The men fought beside you. And now you're supposed to just scatter like seeds on wind? Those who are strong enough will head north, Atok continues. Rumors say the coastal people still have water from the ocean mists. Those who cannot travel. He doesn't finish. Everyone understands. Those who cannot travel will die here. Koya grips your arm. Her message is clear. We need to go north. We need to try, but your ribs are broken. The journey will be hundreds of miles through mountain passes. And Kusi is so weak. Could she even survive the trip? Chasky is staying. He tells you quietly, privately. His will to live died with his wife. He'll stay in the canyon with the others who can't continue. Guard them until the end. It's a kind of suicide, but a useful one. You have to make a choice. Try for the coast and possibly die on the journey, or stay here and definitely die slowly. You decide to go north. It might kill you, but staying will definitely kill you. That's not much of a choice, but it's the only one you have. The group splits by midday. 18 people heading north, 10 adults, 8 children. The rest stay behind with what little food and water remains. Chasky embraces you one final time. No words. What would you say? His eyes are already dead. You turn away before emotion can weaken you. Emotion is a luxury drought victim cannot afford. The northern journey begins at noon, the worst possible time. Sun directly overhead, heat radiating off bare rock. Your ribs scream with every step. Koya carries Kusi, though she's barely strong enough herself. You carry your spear, your knife, and a small water skin, half full. That's your entire wealth now. Atok leads the column. He sets a brutal pace, fast enough to cover distance, slow enough that people don't collapse. Probably. 2 hours in, an elderly woman named Mama Oklo can't continue. She sits down on a rock and waves you forward. Go, she says simply. I'm done. Atok doesn't argue. He learned long ago that arguing with death is pointless. The column moves on. You look back once. She's just sitting there, staring at the mountains, waiting. It takes days to die from dehydration. Maybe she'll change her mind. Probably she won't. The landscape is hell painted in earth tones. Barren ridges, dried riverbeds that haven't held water in years. Dead terraces, climbing mountainsides like fossil remains of civilization. You pass another abandoned village, then another. The drought killed the entire region. Tens of thousands of people gone. The Wari Empire at its height was a marvel. Cities with scissors, ling people, road networks spanning hundreds of miles, architectural wonders, all built on water management. All collapsing now because the rain stopped. You walk for 5 days. Distance is meaningless when you're dying slowly. The water runs out on day 3. After that, it's just willpower and delusion keeping you moving. Your lips crack and bleed. Your tongue swells in your mouth. Kusi stopped talking on day 4. She just stares with glazed eyes, conserving what little energy remains. 2 more people die. A young boy who simply stops breathing in the night, and a woman who walks off a cliff edge. Whether it was accident or suicide, you don't know. Doesn't matter. Dead is dead. On day 6, you smell it. Salt, ocean. The coastal zone is near. The pace quickens despite exhaustion. Hope is toxic. It makes you burn resources you don't have, but you can't help it. The ocean means water, means fish, means survival. You crest a ridge and see it. The Pacific Ocean, vast and impossibly blue, and below a coastal village, small, maybe 50 dwellings, but intact, alive. Smoke from cooking fires. The sight makes you weep, actual tears, though you have no moisture to spare. The descent takes 2 hours. Your legs barely work. The broken ribs have infected. You can smell the rot. You're probably dying, but not today. Maybe not today. The coastal villagers see you coming. They don't attack. They recognize what you are. Drought refugees, dying, desperate, no threat. An elder meets you at the village edge. His name is Kon, and his dialect is coastal Quechua, slightly different from yours but understandable. We have water, he says carefully, from ocean mists. We collect it on cloth at night. We have fish. We can share. Some. The conditions are unspoken but clear. You'll work. You'll obey their rules. You'll become the lowest caste in their society. You don't hesitate. Yes, you say, anything. Please, the coastal people give you water. Not much. Half a cup, carefully measured. Drinking too fast after severe dehydration kills people. Your body has forgotten how to process water. You sip slowly, though every cell screams for more. The water tastes of salt and fog and life. Kusi receives her portion and drinks with the automatic movements of the nearly dead. Her eyes don't focus. Koya drinks and cries again, silently. The coastal villagers provide a shelter, not a dwelling, just a lean made of driftwood and woven grass. Refugee housing. You're not members of their community. Your charity case is tolerated, not welcomed, but you're alive. That night, you develop a fever. The infected ribs are killing you. Infection was always the real danger, more than starvation or dehydration. The broken bones punctured something internal. Now rot is spreading through your chest. You know this. You've seen it before. Koya knows too. She doesn't say anything. What could she say? The coastal people have a healer, an old man named Ilapa, who knows plants and surgery. He examines your ribs by firelight, pressing fingers against the swollen flesh. You try not to scream. The infection is deep, he says flatly. I can try to drain it. Cut open the wound, let the rot out. You'll probably die anyway. But without treatment, you'll definitely die. Maybe 3 days. Another choice that isn't really a choice. Do it, you gasp. They hold you down, Atok and 2 coastal warriors. No anesthetic except a rag to bite. Ilapa heats an obsidian blade in fire until it glows. Then he cuts. The pain is beyond description, beyond thought. You're just pain with a body attached. You smell your own flesh burning, hear your own screams, and then, mercifully, you pass out. You wake 3 days later, surprised to be alive. The surprise is probably visible on your face because Ilapa, sitting nearby, laughs. A dry, crackling sound. The gods aren't finished with you yet, he says, or they want you to suffer longer. Hard to tell. Your ribs are wrapped in cloth soaked with something that smells of the ocean. Seaweed, maybe, or kelp. The fever has broken. The rot smell is gone, replaced by clean salt air scent. You might actually survive. The realization brings no joy, just tired acknowledgement. Koya is there immediately, with Kusi. Your daughter looks better. Still weak, still frighteningly thin, but her eyes focus now. The coastal diet of fish and sea plants, supplemented by the mysterious ocean mist water, is bringing her back from the edge. You scared us, Koya whispers, though her face says she expected you to die. Everyone expected you to die. Recovery is slow. The coastal people put you to work as soon as you can stand. Nothing is free, not even charity. Your job is simple and back-breaking, collecting the ocean mist. Every night, the villagers hang enormous cloth sheets in strategic positions to catch the fog that rolls in from the Pacific. By morning, the cloth is soaked. You wring it out into ceramic vessels. One night's collection fills maybe 3 vessels for the entire village. It's not much, but combined with occasional rain and careful rationing, it's enough. Barely. You work beside Atak and the other highland refugees. The coastal people treat you like outsiders, which you are. They speak to you in commands, not conversation. You eat after they eat. You sleep in the worst shelters. You accept this without complaint. Pride is another luxury the drought killed. You're alive. Your family is alive. That's more than most highland people can say. Weeks pass, then months. Life on the coast is hard, but it's life. That's more than you had in the highlands. Kusi gains weight slowly. She starts talking again. First just words, then sentences, then actual childish chatter. You'd forgotten children could be loud and silly. The drought in the highlands killed that too. Koya adapts faster than you. Women always do. They're more flexible, more practical. She learns coastal weaving techniques, makes herself useful to the village women. Slowly, grudgingly, they accept her. Not as equal, but as tolerated presence. You remain an outsider. The coastal men see you as defeated, broken, less than. They're not wrong. You were a warrior of the Wari Empire. Now you're a laborer who collects fog. But you're alive. One morning, a trader arrives from the north, a coastal merchant who travels between villages exchanging goods. He brings news. The highland drought is worsening. The great city of Wari, capital of the Wari Empire, is abandoned. Completely. A A city that once held Cicer's Ling people is now empty, except for corpses. The entire central Andes is collapsing. Warfare everywhere as the remaining people fight over shrinking resources. The trader estimates hundreds of thousands dead, maybe more. The Wari civilization, which lasted Wubak years, is ending. You listen to this news without emotion. You already knew this, really. You watched it happen. The trader also brings rumors of a new power rising in the south. People called the Inca, who claim to have better water management, better agricultural techniques, but that's far away and irrelevant. The future belongs to whoever can survive the present. That night, you sit on the beach watching the ocean. The Pacific is vast, indifferent, eternal. It doesn't care about empires or droughts or civilization. It just exists. There's something comforting in that. The water will still be here long after your dust. A year passes on the coast. You almost stop counting. Time becomes measured not in days, but in seasons. Wet season, when occasional rains supplement the mist collection. Dry season, when every drop is precious. Kusi turns 7. She's a coastal child now, more comfortable with ocean than mountains. She speaks the coastal dialect better than Highland Quechua. She's forgetting. You don't know how to feel about that. Part of you wants her to forget the horror. Part of you grieves for the culture being erased. The Highland refugees slowly integrate or die. 2 more died in the first months. Just couldn't adapt. The rest learned. Atak became a fisherman. He's good at it, surprisingly. The same patience that made him deadly with sling and blade makes him excellent at reading the ocean. He rarely speaks of the highlands anymore. Chasky is probably dead by now. The thought arrives unbidden. He stayed in that canyon with the others who couldn't travel. That was a year ago. No one survives a year in the highland drought zone. Not anymore. You pour out a small cup of water on the sand. A highland ritual for the dead, offering water to spirits. It's the most precious thing you have to give. One day, a highland refugee arrives from the south. Just one man, barely alive, carrying news from the interior. The entire Wari territory has fragmented into warring chiefdoms. The great cities are ruins. The sophisticated water systems lie broken, unmaintained. Knowledge is being lost. Engineering secrets, architectural techniques, administrative methods that took centuries to develop, all dying with the people who held them. He also brings word that the drought might be breaking. Some regions report rain, light rain, but rain. It might be temporary, it might be permanent. No one knows, but there's moisture in the air again somewhere. The news of possible rain in the highlands obsesses some refugees. Not you. The highlands took everything from you. You have no desire to return. We have pros. You have no desire to return, but others do. Homesickness is a disease drought survivors carry. A small group decides to scout the old territories. Atok goes with them. He's restless on the coast, despite his skill at fishing. The mountains are in his blood. You embrace him before he leaves. Still no words. Your friendship survived warfare, massacre, flight, and exile. Words would cheapen it. They leave at dawn. 7 men heading inland. You watch them disappear into the coastal mountains and wonder if you'll see Atok again. Probably not. Life is full of final goodbyes disguised as temporary partings. Your focus shifts to your family. Koya is pregnant. At first you thought it impossible. Malnutrition usually stops fertility. But coastal nutrition and a year of relative stability brought her body back. A new child. In this dying world, is it cruel to bring new life into collapse, or is it the ultimate defiance? You discuss this one night, lying in your shelter listening to ocean waves. Life continues, Koya says simply. Empires fall. Civilizations end. People survive and make new lives. This child will be born into the coast, not the highlands. Born into survival, not collapse. You put your hand on her belly. Nothing visible yet, but life is there, growing, defiant. The coastal villagers notice the pregnancy. Their attitude shifts slightly. Pregnant women are sacred in Andean culture, highland or coastal. They bring Koya special foods, fish high in nutrients. Elder women offer advice. For the first time, you feel almost welcomed, not as Highlanders, as people, as community members. Maybe this is what survival looks like. Not returning to what was lost, but building something new from fragments. 5 months later, Koya gives birth. It's a boy. He comes screaming into the world with strong lungs and grasping fists. You name him Sinchi. It means strong in Quechua, a prayer disguised as a name. The birth is attended by coastal women who've accepted Koya fully now. Childbirth breaks down barriers that warfare never could. They bring gifts, woven blankets, shell necklaces to ward off evil spirits, dried fish for Koya's recovery. Kusi is fascinated by her baby brother. She helps care for him with the seriousness children bring to important tasks. You watch her cradling Sinchi and realize she's grown up during this year of survival. She lost her childhood in the highlands. She's building a new one here. 3 weeks after the birth, Atok returns, alone. Of the 7 who went inland, he's the only survivor. The others died in the mountains, some from residual warfare, some from starvation in regions still gripped by drought, one from a fall. Atok looks older, haunted. He brings his report to the village elder and to you. The highlands are slowly recovering. Light rains have returned to some regions, but the damage is catastrophic. Villages abandoned, entire valleys empty. The great Wari cities are ruins. Huari, Piquilacta, Conchopata, all gone. The population might be 1/10 what it was 3 years ago. The survivors are scattered, traumatized, reverting to smaller tribal organizations. The empire is dead. It will never return. And our village, you ask, though you already know. Burned completely, Atok says. No one lives there. The terraces are intact, but no one tends them. The whole region is ghosts. You nod. That part of your life is truly over. You're coastal now. Sinchi will never see the mountains you came from. He'll be born and raised by the ocean. That's not tragedy, that's adaptation, that's survival. 2 more years pass. Sinchi grows into a sturdy toddler with Koya's eyes and your stubborn chin. He crawls, then walks, then runs along the beach with other coastal children. He'll never know what you survived. How could you explain it? The warfare, the starvation, the massacre. These things exist in a world he'll never see. Kusi is 9 now, more coastal than highland. She's learning to weave intricate patterns, learning to read the ocean for fishing times, learning songs in the coastal dialect. The highland Quechua you taught her is fading, becoming accent rather than language. You've stopped trying to preserve it. What's the point? The world that language described is gone. You are no longer Tupac the warrior. That man died somewhere on the march south, or in the surgery, or in the first year of adaptation. You're Tupac the coastal fisherman now. It's not a grand identity. You don't lead men into battle or serve a great empire. You catch fish, you collect fog water, you mend nets, small tasks that keep your family alive. And somehow, that's enough, more than enough. One evening, the village gathers for a ceremony, a coastal tradition thanking the ocean for its provision. The ritual is different from highland ceremonies. No mountain spirits here, just the vast Pacific and its moods. You participate without hesitation, speaking the coastal prayers, making the coastal offerings. The old gods of the Apis seem distant now, irrelevant. Or perhaps they're the same gods wearing different faces. Koya stands beside you, Sinchi on her hip, Kusi holding your hand. Your family, intact, alive. In a world where hundreds of thousands died, where an entire civilization collapsed, where the drought killed indiscriminately, you survived. Not through strength or virtue, through luck, timing, and the willingness to become someone new. News continues to trickle from the highlands over the following year. The drought has definitely broken. Regular rains have returned to most regions, but the damage is permanent. The population of the central Andes might never recover to pre-drought levels. Entire languages died with isolated communities. Engineering knowledge vanished when the builders starved. The great irrigation systems lie broken. Some will never be rebuilt because no one remembers how. The Wari Empire left behind impressive ruins and nothing else. No successor state emerged. Instead, the region fragmented into dozens of small chiefdoms, each jealously guarding its resources. The unity that drought destroyed won't return for generations, if ever. A traveler mentions hearing about a highland lord far to the south, building a new confederation. Someone named Manco. It might be the beginning of something new. Or it might be just another warlord. From the coast, it's impossible to know and hard to care. Your world is here now. The ocean, the mist, the fish. You've become skilled at reading weather patterns, knowing when fog will be heavy for good water collection, official school near shore. These are the skills that matter. Highland knowledge of terrace agriculture and mountain warfare is useless here. You've learned to value different things. One afternoon, working on the beach repairing nets, a young coastal man approaches you. His name is Erpi, maybe 16, born to a family that treats refugees decently. He's been watching you work for weeks. "Teach me," he says abruptly. "Teach me the Highland fighting techniques. My father says you were a great warrior once." You look at him for a long moment. "Were you?" It seems like a story about someone else, a life that happened to a different person. "No," you say finally. "Those skills die with me. I'm a fisherman now. If you want to learn something useful, I'll teach you to read the ocean." Years continue their steady march. Sinchi turns 5. He's fearless with the ocean, diving into waves that terrify you, but which he navigates like a seal pup. Kusi is 12 now, at the age where coastal girls begin learning adult responsibilities. She's been promised to a coastal fisherman's son, a good match that cements your family's integration. You never imagined your daughter would marry into the coastal people. Life has a way of destroying your expectations and replacing them with something workable. Koya is pregnant again. 4th pregnancy. 1 child lost in the highlands to starvation. Kusi survived, Sinchi thriving, and now another. She's older now, the pregnancy harder. The coastal midwives watch her carefully. But she's strong. Stronger than you in ways that matter. Atok died last winter, quietly in his sleep. He'd lived longer than most highland refugees. His funeral was conducted in both highland and coastal traditions, offerings to both the Apus and the ocean, a hybrid ceremony for a man caught between worlds. You carried his body to the burial ground yourself, the last of your old warrior band, gone. You're the only one left now who remembers Chaski's laugh, who remembers Viracocha's dignity, who remembers the village before the drought, who remembers what warfare over water looked like. The memories are fading. You don't fight it. Maybe forgetting is its own kind of survival. One night you dream of the highlands. The dream is strange, not the nightmare of drought and violence, but older memories. Your father teaching you to use a sling. Your mother singing while grinding quinoa. The terraced fields green with crops, water running in every channel. The world before. You wake with tears on your face. Koya doesn't ask. She knows. Grief ambushes you sometimes, even years later. Or even when you've built a new life, the old ghosts never completely vanish. Koya gives birth to another boy. You name him Atok, after your dead friend. The name carries weight, memory, honor, grief. Little Atok is smaller than Sinchi was, more fragile. The coastal midwives worry, but he survives the dangerous first weeks. 2 sons and a daughter, a family rebuilt from ruins. Kusi's wedding approaches. It's a significant coastal ceremony, your daughter marrying into an established fishing family. The bride price was substantial, showing respect. You're giving away the girl you carried out of the highlands on Koya's back. The skeletal, coughing child who nearly died. Now she's a beautiful young woman who moves with coastal grace, who speaks coastal Quechua without accent, who barely remembers the mountains. During the wedding ceremony, you perform the traditional father's role, binding her hand to her new husband's with woven cord. The symbolism is obvious, binding families, creating new connections, building future. Your hand shakes slightly. Your hand shakes slightly. Not from age, from emotion you didn't expect. Her husband, his name is Kusi, like your daughter, a common name, is a good young man. Strong, skilled at fishing, from a family that treats you with respect now, not contempt. He'll provide well. More importantly, he looks at your daughter with genuine affection. In this harsh world, that's more than many marriages have. The celebration lasts into night. Fish grilled over open fires, fermented drink made from coastal plants, music and dancing. You participate but feel separate somehow. The last link to your highland past is being severed. Kusi is coastal now, completely. She'll have children who know nothing of the Warri Empire except stories. They'll be ocean people, with no connection to mountains or altitude, or the civilization that collapsed. Is that tragedy or victory? Both, probably. History moves forward whether you like it or not. You can cling to the past and die, or adapt and live. You chose life. But life costs something. You're 40 years old. Old for someone who survived what you survived. Most of your original warband died before 30. Your body carries the evidence, the scars on your ribs from Ilapa's surgery, the limp from an old wound, the way your hands ache before storms. But you're alive. Sinchi is 7 now, already showing skill with small fishing nets. He follows you everywhere, learning by observation like you learned from your father. The circle of generations. Baby Atak is 2, just beginning to talk in coastal Quechua with no highland accent. He'll never know the language of your birth. The coastal village has grown. More refugees arrived over the years, though fewer now. The highland population stabilized at a fraction of its pre-drought level. The survivors are rebuilding slowly in the old territories. But they're different now. Smaller communities, more cautious, with bitter memories. One day, a formal delegation arrives from the highlands. They're representatives from various chiefdoms, attempting to rebuild trade networks with the coast. The leader is young, maybe 25, wearing traditional highland dress. He introduces himself with a name you haven't heard in 10 years. I am of the Warri, he says formally. You almost laugh. The Warri are gone, dead, collapsed. But here's a young man claiming the name like it still means something. Perhaps it does to him. Perhaps claiming the past is how some people survive its loss. The delegation seeks to establish regular trade, highland products like wool and potatoes for coastal fish and salt. The coastal elders negotiate carefully. You're invited to participate as someone who knows both worlds. You find yourself translating not just language but culture, explaining highland customs to coastal people, coastal realities to highlanders. You become a bridge between worlds, standing with feet in both, belonging fully to neither. There's something appropriate in that. The drought made you liminal, forever between. The trade agreement is reached after days of careful negotiation. Highland wool and dried goods for coastal salt and dried fish. Regular caravans will travel between regions. It's not the integrated empire the Warri once maintained, more like separate nations tentatively reconnecting after catastrophic divorce. But it's something. Movement, exchange, the beginning of recovery, maybe. The Highland delegation prepares to leave. The young leader, who called himself Warri, approaches you privately. "You're from the Highlands," he states. "Not a question. Your accent probably gives you away, even after all these years." "I was," you acknowledge. "Long ago." "Which village?" You tell him. He nods slowly. "I know that place. It's ruins now. Some people have returned to farm the terraces, but the village itself is gone. Just foundation stones." This doesn't surprise you, but hearing it confirmed still hurts. "My father told stories about the drought years," the young leader continues. "About the warfare, the villages fighting over water. He said it was hell." "It was," you say simply. He's silent for a moment. Then, "How did you survive?" You consider the question. How do you answer that? Luck, ruthlessness, willingness to abandon everything? "I changed," you finally say. "I stopped being who I was. I became something else." That's the only way to survive catastrophe. Die and be reborn as someone who can live in the new world. He looks at you with something like understanding. "My father couldn't do that. He survived the drought but not the peace. Couldn't adapt. Killed himself 5 years ago. Another casualty. Another victim of collapse. The drought killed people years after the rain returned." "I'm sorry," you offer. He shrugs. "The old world is dead. We're building something new. It won't be what our grandparents had, but it might be enough." You watch him leave, heading back into the mountains. Young and hopeful. You envy that. You've learned that hope is dangerous. Life continues its rhythm. Years pass with the regularity of tides. Sinchi becomes a skilled fisherman by age 12. He has your determination, but Koya's temperament, steadier, less prone to the darkness you carry. Atok is 7, wild and fearless like his namesake. Kusi has 2 children now, your grandchildren. A boy and a girl who call you Awicha, grandfather. The word still sounds strange. You're a grandfather. You survived to be a grandfather. This seemed impossible once. The coastal village prospers modestly. The regular Highland trade brings resources, not abundance. The world is too scarred for abundance, but sufficiency. Children grow up with enough food. That's a kind of miracle. The elderly die peacefully instead of from starvation. That's another. One morning, you wake to find Koya cold beside you. She died in her sleep. No warning, no illness, just there, then gone. The shock is absolute. You've survived warfare, drought, famine, massacre, exile. But this breaks you in a way those horrors didn't. She was the constant, the one who endured everything beside you, the witness to your transformation. And now she's gone. The coastal funeral traditions are followed, her body wrapped in finest woven cloth, decorated with shells, placed in the burial ground overlooking the ocean she learned to love. Kusi weeps openly. Sinchi stands rigid, trying to be strong. Atok doesn't understand death yet. He keeps asking when mother will wake up. You don't cry, not then. You're too shocked. The tears come later, alone, in the dwelling that's suddenly enormous and empty. You cry for Koya, for Chaski, for Viracocha, for your old comrades, for your village, for the Warri Empire, for everything the drought killed, for the weight of being the last one who remembers, the last witness to a world that's gone. Survival, you realize, is its own kind of burden. The dead have peace. The living carry their ghosts. The months after Koya's death are hollow. You go through motions, fishing, collecting mist, eating because your body demands it. But there's no joy, no purpose. You're an old man now, older in spirit than years. 50 feels like 80. Kusi worries about you. She visits daily with her children, trying to fill the silence. Sinchi brings you fish he's caught, presented like offerings. Atok, now understanding death, is gentle around you in a way that breaks your heart. Children shouldn't have to be careful around adults, but these are careful times. One evening, sitting on the beach, watching sunset, something you and Koya did together for 20 years, a realization arrives. You've lived past your purpose, you survived for your family. Now they're grown, capable, integrated into coastal life. They don't need you anymore, not really. The thought is liberating and terrifying. Without purpose, what are you? Just an old refugee with scars and memories nobody wants. The Wari Empire collapsed 30 years ago. An entire generation has grown up knowing only the aftermath. To them, the great cities are just ruins. The sophisticated culture is just stories. They're building something new, something simpler, something adapted to harsher realities. There's no place in their world for old warriors carrying dead languages. You consider walking into the ocean. It would be easy. The Pacific is vast and indifferent. It would accept you without judgment. End the pain, the loneliness, the weight of memory. But then Atok appears, calling you to dinner at Kusi's dwelling. And you go, as that's what survivors do. They keep going even when they don't want to, even when it hurts, even when the purpose is unclear. You keep going because breathing has become habit, and habits are hard to break. You keep going because your grandchildren laugh, and maybe that's enough reason. Maybe it has to be enough. 6 months later, something shifts. Not healing. Grief doesn't heal like wounds, but adaptation. You've adapted before. You can adapt again. You begin teaching. It starts accidentally when Atok asks about the scars on your ribs. You tell him the story, the battle, the infection, the surgery. He listens with wide eyes. Tell me more, he begs. So you do. You tell him about the drought, about the Wari Empire before collapse, about terraced fields and irrigation systems, about warfare over water, about the march to the coast. Not all of it. Children don't need the full horror, but enough that he understands where he came from, who his grandmother was, what his father survived. Other children gather to listen, then adults. The stories become regular. Evenings on the beach, you speaking, others listening. You're not trying to glorify the past. You're trying to preserve it, to make sure the knowledge doesn't die with you. The engineering techniques the Wari used, the astronomical observations that guided planting, the social structures that maintained empire, the warning signs of drought, most importantly, the lesson of collapse, how quickly civilization can end, how fragile prosperity is, how adaptation is survival. The coastal youth listen with mixture of fascination and horror. They can't imagine warfare over water. Their world has ocean mist and regular rain, but they're learning that good times don't last forever, learning that their grandparents suffered so they could live, learning that memory matters. One evening, a young woman, maybe 16, approaches after a storytelling session. My father says those stories are just old man's exaggerations, she says. He says the drought wasn't that bad, that people are making it bigger than it was. You look at her steadily. I hope he's right, you say quietly. I hope I did exaggerate. I hope it wasn't as bad as I remember. Because if it was as bad as I remember, and people forget, it could happen again. You live another 5 years, long enough to see Sinchi marry and have a child, long enough to watch Atok become a young man, long enough that the storytelling tradition is established. You're known now as the elder, not your name, just your function, the one who remembers other highland refugees who survived. There are a few scattered along the coast, sometimes visit to share their stories. You compare memories, fill gaps. One old woman from Pikalacta describes the capital city before its fall. Her details match yours, confirming that you're not going mad, that your memories are real. This matters more than you expected. The weight of being sole witness was crushing. Shared memory distributes the burden. The highland trade routes are well established now. Young people travel back and forth regularly. Some coastal youth even move inland to resettle the old territories. The scars of drought are permanent. The population will never reach pre-collapse levels. But life continues. Humans are remarkably resilient. You've learned this repeatedly. They adapt, rebuild, continue. Sometimes you dream of walking back into the highlands, seeing the old village one last time. But you never do. You're too old, too lame, too coastal now. The mountains are memory, not home. This beach is home. These grandchildren are home. The ocean's rhythm is home. One night, lying in your dwelling listening to waves, you realize you're dying. Nothing dramatic, just body shutting down, systems failing, old age finally catching up to trauma. You're not afraid. Death has been following you for 40 years. Time to stop running. You call your children and grandchildren. They gather, understanding without words. You give each a small token, to Kusi, Koya's shell necklace, to Sinchi, your old bronze knife, now ceremonial rather than functional, to Atok, the choice of staying or leaving. You can go back if you want, you tell him, to the highlands, or stay here. Either choice honors us. You die 2 days later, peacefully in sleep, with Atok keeping vigil beside you. Your last conscious thoughts are of water, not the scarce, desperate water of drought, but abundance. Rain falling on green terraces, rivers running full, the ocean infinite and giving. Maybe that's mercy. Maybe the mind at the end offers what it most desired. The coastal funeral is elaborate. You've earned status over the years, not as warrior or leader, but as elder, storyteller, keeper of memory. They wrap your body in the finest cloth, decorated with both highland and coastal symbols. A hybrid funeral for a hybrid life. The burial is on the cliff overlooking the ocean, a good spot where wind and waves provide constant sound. Kusi speaks about her mother and father, refugees who became coastal, who survived collapse, who built new lives from ruins. Sinchi is more emotional than you've ever seen him. Atok is silent, holding your old spear, the bronze-tipped weapon that survived everything. They place it in your grave. A highland tradition. Your body will face the ocean. Coastal custom. Even in death, you bridge both worlds. After the burial, the village holds a feast. Coastal tradition dictates celebrating the dead who lived full lives. They tell stories about you, some accurate, some exaggerated, some completely invented. You'd laugh if you could hear them. You're becoming myth already. The drunk old man who fought gods and drought and survived both. Good. Myths are more useful than facts. A week later, Atok makes his decision. He'll stay coastal, but he takes your name, Tupac, as his adult name, carrying forward not the trauma but the adaptation, not the loss but the survival, not the warrior but the fisherman. He'll tell his children about the great-grandfather who walked out of dying highlands and became something new. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all anyone can do. Survive, adapt, remember, continue. 20 years after Tupac's death, the region has changed again. The new Tupac, Atok, who took his grandfather's name, is now a respected elder himself. He has 4 children, all coastal. The stories of the drought have become legend. Most young people can't imagine warfare over water. The world they know has adequate resource, stable communities, regular trade. This is good. This is what the survivors died for. A generation that doesn't understand their grandparents' trauma. But young Tupac worries sometimes that they're forgetting the lessons. That prosperity makes people complacent, that they assume good times will last forever. So he continues storytelling tradition his grandfather established. On beach evenings, he speaks of the Wari Empire, the great drought, the collapse, the survival. He shows them the bronze knife his father carried, the spear his grandfather wielded. relics of a different time. The Highland trade, the region has stabilized into a new normal. Not the integrated empire of before, but a network of independent communities exchanging goods and knowledge. It's smaller, more cautious, less magnificent, but it works. Archaeologists from the future, though young Tupac doesn't know this term, will puzzle over the ruins of Wari cities. They'll carbon date the abandonment to around Lingfu Ichen Ebite AD. They'll theorize about the collapse, drought, warfare, systems failure. They'll be right about the mechanisms but wrong about the experience. No archaeological record can capture what it felt like to watch your children starve, to kill neighbors over water, to walk away from everything, to become someone new just to survive. Young Tupac knows this. 90-60s de prédecesseur sa peace force. So he tells the stories, not for history, for warning. Abundance ends, he tells the gathered youth. Systems fail. The world changes without asking permission. The question isn't whether catastrophe will come. The question is whether you'll adapt when it does. The ocean continues its eternal rhythm. Indifferent. Eternal. Outlasting empires and droughts and human drama. Young Tupac finds comfort in that. His grandfather did too, 50 years after the original Tupac's death. The last person who remembered the drought personally has died. Everyone now knows it only through stories, second-hand memory. The Wari Empire is ancient history, something grandparents' experienced. The ruins in the highlands are tourist curiosities. Young people visit them, marvel at the engineering, and can't imagine the civilization that built them. Can't imagine the people who died there. The highland coastal distinction has blurred. Intermarriage over generations created a hybrid culture, neither purely one nor the other, but something new. They eat both fish and highland crops. They worship both ocean and mountain spirits. They speak a Quechua dialect that combines both regions. This is what survival looks like long-term. Not preservation of what was, but creation of what works. The bronze knife that passed from the first Tupac to Sinchi's son is now a family heirloom. Ceremonial. No one remembers it ever drew blood in warfare. That's mercy, perhaps. Weapons becoming symbols. Violence becoming story. The coastal villages have prospered modestly. Not wealthy, but stable. Children grow up expecting to survive childhood, a luxury their great-great-grandparents couldn't imagine. The population slowly increases. Not to pre-drought levels, those numbers won't return for centuries, but growth, finally, after 50 years of decline. In the highlands, new confederations are forming. Not the Wari Empire, that's gone forever, but the beginnings of what will eventually become the Inca. Different system, different structure, learning from the failures of what came before. The drought taught lessons, some remembered them. The climate has stabilized. Regular rainfall patterns, the mega drought that killed the Wari lasted roughly years total. It's ending now. The world is healing slowly in its own time. Humans are resilient, adaptive. They survive catastrophes and rebuild. Sometimes stronger, sometimes just different, always continuing. The first Tupac would recognize this pattern. He lived it, died teaching it. His legacy isn't the violence or the trauma. It's the adaptation, the survival, the willingness to become new. 100 years after the first Tupac died, his name is legend. Nobody knows if he was real or myth. The stories have been embellished, contradicted, merged with other stories. He's become symbol, the survivor, the adapter, the one who walked out of ending world and into beginning world. This is what happens to memory over time. Facts become legends, legends become myths, myths become meaning. The bronze knife still exists, carefully preserved by descendants who claim direct lineage. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're inventing connection to prestigious past. Doesn't matter, the knife is real. The survival it represents is real. The lesson endures even when the man becomes fiction. The coastal highland hybrid culture is simply the culture now. No one thinks of it as hybrid. It's just how things are, how they've always been in living memory. The old divisions, mountain people versus ocean people, seem absurd. Of course you're both. Everyone is both. The mega drought is recorded in ice cores and tree rings. Scientists of the future will study it. Rainfall reduction of sensors bifendered fu scissors, lasting approximately ebat years, coinciding exactly with Wari collapse. The data will confirm the stories, but data can't capture the human experience, can't explain what it meant to choose between keeping your humanity and keeping your family alive. Can't measure the weight of being last witness, can't quantify adaptation. The descendants of Tupac, real or claimed, number in hundreds now. Fishermen, farmers, traders, crafts, people. They live modest lives in a modest world. The grandeur of empire is gone. That particular expression of human civilization ended in the drought. Something smaller, more resilient, more cautious took its place. Maybe that's wisdom, maybe catastrophe teaches humility. Or maybe humans simply rebuild according to the resources available. And this time, resources are limited. Either way, life continues. Always continues. Humans plant, fish, build, love, die, and leave children who do the same. The ocean keeps its rhythm. The mountains keep their silence. And somewhere, in stories told on beach evenings, an old warrior turned. Fisherman keeps teaching the same lesson. Survive. Adapt. Remember. Continue. This is the story of the drought that killed the Wari civilization. But more importantly, it's the story of the humans who survived it, who refused to die with their empire, who became something new, who carried memory forward into future. These are your ancestors. Every human alive is descended from survivors, people who faced catastrophe and adapted, people who lost everything and built again, people who bore the unbearable. You carry their resilience in your bones, their adaptability in your blood, their stubborn refusal to quit. Sleep well, knowing you come from survivors. Whatever you face tomorrow, you have the genes of people who faced worse and persevered. The drought ended. The empire fell. The people survived. This is your inheritance. This is your strength. Good night. So there you have it, the forgotten story of the Wari collapse. 1000 AD, the drought that destroyed an empire, and the man who survived it by becoming someone new. The archaeological evidence confirms every detail: the mega drought, the abandoned cities, the warfare, the mass migration to coasts. But only stories can capture what survival actually cost. If you made it this far, you're the kind of person who appreciates deep history. Drop a comment telling me which chapter hit hardest. Was it the initial raid, the surgery scene, the final adaptation? Hit subscribe for more forgotten history. Tomorrow night, we're covering the Bronze Age collapse, another time the world ended and humans rebuilt from ashes. Sweet dreams. You're safe, you have water, you come from survivors,